Let's talk a little bit about journal entries. Journal entries are really key part to the FYEX 1110 course. This is your opportunity to be self-reflective and to explore what some of the concepts we're covering really mean to you and how they relate to your life, both in the present, in the past, and possibly in the future. I'm going to look at the first journal entry here. If we go into content, your journal writing will start in week 2 of the course. We're right on week 2 right here, but of course you can find that in the table of contents. And if you go down through the discussion, etc., you'll find the link to the week 2 journal entry. You can click on that assignment, and then there are several links here that I think it's important that you explore. First of all, though, this journal entry requires that you did complete the soft skills self-assessment in the week 1 learning module. If you didn't do that, you should go do that before you do anything else, and that will take you into the MindTap companion site, and it's going to give you a kind of a questionnaire survey over the 8 on-course principles we cover in this course. Okay. Let's take a look at the Success Journal overview. These documents are actually in the important documents area of the course. And probably the most important thing students really to understand about journal entries is that they're the most important thing you do in the class. They're more important than the final project. They're more important than quizzes. They're more important than application activities in terms of your overall grade. We operate with a weighted grade book, which means that journal entries are always 30% of the total grade of the class. 30%, that's about 1/3 of your grade. It's amazing to me, having taught this course for many years, how closely the ending grades for the class in terms of whether students are getting A's, B's, or C's are determined by how well they've done in their journal entries. If you're getting D's and F's on your journal entries, then you're going to get a D and F for the class. If you're getting an A on your journal entry, you'll get probably an A for the class. It's not a perfect correlation, but because these make up such a big part of the grade, they're really, really important. You're going to write, it says up to 12 here. I think we do 10 journal entries in the course total. So quite a lot of journal entries each week. All journal entries are word processed. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And there are evaluations given to you each week. There is a success journal grading rubric that you can also look at in this folder. Let's just go back a step here. You see there are several documents that show the that you can kind of look at. The grading rubric right here. It shows you what an exceptional journal entry is evaluated according to these criteria. Relation to the textbook. Are you sort of using the information you've learned in the textbook reading to inform what you're writing about in a particular journal entry? Do you include examples and details? It's huge for students. I tell my students all the time, the best way to do that is to tell a story. Don't just say that I'm doing great with my motivation. Give an example of that. What are you really motivated for? What do you do? How does it feel? And pretty soon you've got a very rich kind of journal entry. Are you self-reflective? You know, maybe you recognize with your motivation, you're motivated to do some things, but not others. So what is the difference there? Why is that motivation different in different areas? And then the writing, the quality of the writing is consistently superior in an exceptional journal entry. One thing I should point out there is that we don't grade journal entries on grammar and proofreading and spelling, etc. You can do superior writing, and maybe your English teacher would say, oh, you should have started a new paragraph, or that's a run-on sentence. We're not so concerned about that in journal writing. We want you to get your ideas out there. We want you to write as if it is your own personal journal. So you're writing for yourself as much as you are for your instructor. Oh, let's go back into our journal page right here. Let's take a look at the Well, let's go back here first. We'll take a quick look at the journal that's due in week 2, which will be the first journal that you write. And we'll just kind of point out that in every week when you're assigned a journal entry, there will always be a Word document that you can open. In this case, we're going to open it up from the downloads bar, and you'll be able to edit this journal document and add your thoughts to it, which is, I think, helpful because there are some things here that otherwise might get lost in the journal entry. For instance, for this first journal entry, the very first thing you're going to do is record the 8 scores you got on that initial soft skills self-assessment. And those will be pretty simple to find. Hopefully you wrote them down when you took the self-assessment, but if not, go back in a MindTap and you'll find that you can access your scores there. And then you're going to write about the areas of the assessment in which you had your highest scores, and then write about areas on the self-assessment where you had your lowest scores. Best way to do this is to, we always have to enable editing anytime we're downloading a file from the internet, from an internet source. But then we want to go in and do a save as. And that's simply going to be so that we can save this document somewhere on our local computer. Right now it's in my downloads folder. I don't really want it there. I want it to be somewhere that might be easier for me to find. So I'm going to put my name on it. So when I do find it, I know it is my version of the document. And then I'm going to look for a place to save it. I could save it in a folder, perhaps in my documents folder. In this case, I'm going to save it on my desktop. So I'll just click save. Now I can work on this document, and I know that when I do want to upload it for my assignment with my writing, I can find it on my desktop. You don't have to put things on your desktop. You can set up a folder for these journal entries. Just depends on how you like to organize files on your local computer. Okay, let's go back and just take a look at what an exceptional journal entry might look like. I really encourage you to go in and explore all of these. There are, I think, 3 examples of exceptional journal entries here. They're all written by students who agree to allow us to use them as an example. I'm just going to focus on the first one right here. They're all great. They're very interesting reading, which is actually probably one of the things about a good journal entry. Which is that it's interesting to read because the student's genuinely sharing some things from their life. We'll take a look at this first one. So here is the scores the student had for the 8 areas of the self-assessment. They've recorded those right there. And then they wrote about the areas in which they had their highest scores. First one was self-motivation. And the student was kind of surprised or shocked to see that, and then went on to talk about a story from their life where they're motivating themselves towards a goal they've set for themselves. This looks like it's something to do with them losing weight and going to workout classes and etc. Okay, so they really go in deeply into that idea of, okay, yeah, I really am a self-motivated person in certain kind of areas of my life. Second highest score was believing in myself. And again, they're going to tell a story about that. That's the first part. And then in the part of the assessment in which they had lowest scores, their lowest score was in emotional intelligence. Again, they dive deep into that and talk about their, their experiences with emotional intelligence. Okay. And then the last one is employing interdependence. So they looked at 2 of their high scoring areas, 2 of their low scoring areas. I think that's very, you could talk about more than that. I personally, as an instructor, prefer that my students do fewer areas and dive deeper than try to say a little bit about everything, because that tends to be superficial. So that's exceptional. That would be an A journal entry. I think in any section of the class, any instructor would be very happy to get that. Let's look at what we are not happy to get, or at least we kind of feel like we're really going to have to work with a student on. This is an emergent journal, same journal entry. In this case, the student has not recorded their 8 scores. They've skipped that part. They've gone on to talk about the areas that they scored highest in, but look what they wrote. The area I scored highest in was lifelong learning because I enjoyed learning new things. I also scored high in discovering self-motivation. I can get really motivated if I think about it. Self-assessment was accurate for this part. I know these scores are correct for me. This is a very superficial journal entry, and the second part is really the same. I think it's evident that the student could explore what kind of new things do you enjoy learning. Is that something you enjoy at school, or do you have a hobby or an interest where you really enjoy learning new things? Likewise for motivation, what do you get motivated about? There's a lot any student can say about these areas of their life, which is true throughout this course. These principles apply to everybody, whether you are 15 years old or 70 years old. And I've had students at both of those age levels. You can really reflect on these things. You know something about yourself. And writing it in your journal is a way to get to know yourself better. It's a way to really explore why you are the way you are regarding lifelong learning or motivation or responsibility, and maybe think about things that you might change in those areas. So this will be emergent. It's a failing journal entry essentially, and we'd be in my class, I'd be talking with the student about, wow, we really need to work on diving deeper, exploring that more. There are a couple of other exceptional journal entries here. I encourage you to open up and read them. That Skip Downing, the author of the textbook, also gives his version of journal entry number 3. You're welcome to look at that one. Ultimately, though, your success journal is your story, your life, your experiences. So the more that you focus on that, the better. When you are ready to submit your journal entry, you're going to want to go into add attachments. It's going to look a little bit better in the student, a little bit different in the student view. And then the changes you've made to your week 2 JE number 3 document, you'll upload them and save them there. And then your instructor will grade them based upon that success journal rubric. So that's the first journal entry. As I say, it's a really important one because it's great to get off to a good start. I think you will if you look at those journal entries that are in the important documents folder, and you sort of evaluate what you've done based upon what you'll see in there. I think you'll find that you'll do quite well in your journal entries.